You have it.
Perfect. He just stopped on the road the other day, so, okay, I will let him know.
Yeah, good.
He says it needs repairs.
Oh, yeah. A lot of digging.
The only thing, Mike, is that, not now because it rained today, but there was some really dusty areas.
Yeah, I got around Friday, we're going around Covert
Oh, good. Okay.
a lot, but I need to get out there and get some smooth up too in between.
I also, Mike, wanted to thank you, Dave, for completing the village park driveway.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have anything, for Mike? Any questions or anything else? If not, okay, so the next item is the Hinckley Brook Covert, and the reason it's on here is that even though we've approved it and the money is there, Mr. Gregory is asking the board to confirm that they will build it, that they will not renege next year.
You don't need to put it that strongly, but that it will be built. That it is your intent to do this project in the summer of 2023.
Right, I think all he's asking is the board to just give him that assurance, so he can go ahead and order the materials that is necessary, and we'll get stuck with that, in essence, is what it is.
Exactly.
My understanding, if he wants it in writing, or at least by
No, he
details.
just wants it on, just make a motion and we'll do it.
Okay, we'll bring that. We will give our assurance that we're going to go ahead with this culvert job.
Make a second for that? No, you will second it? I will second it. Any discussion?
Yes,
Yeah?
thank you. So first of all, I'm gonna thank, the select board for putting this on the agenda today. And I have a couple of questions that are more general in nature, but may relate to, the specifics of this contract. And I think it's largely because I just don't understand how the contracts work. And I would really like to understand that more. Last week, at the last select board meeting, as the minutes reflect, the, Jamie had not received a letter. I think that specifically, John, you had said that whenever a bid is awarded to a contractor, that contractor should be notified.
And brought that up because they tried to stay out of it, and the four of you had emails to you that pertained to that, and I thought that one of you would speak up, and nobody did. So that's why I spoke up and said what that was about. And I think it's very simple. All he needs is a letter stating that you'll do it. And I think not just him, anybody that you give out a contract to, you should send him a letter.
And so, and Joe was here for that meeting.
Yes.
He was one of the four. Joe is the chair. He has responsibility for the agenda. So, I thought it was, unusual that Joe didn't say anything about it. And when you mentioned the fact that, he needed a letter, I think that's what we went along with, because we felt the letter might be the solution to the problem.
That's what I thought.
I think it's exactly what I think we thought, Rich, right? So, I spoke with Bill about it, and in fact, I believe John, Jamie, and the other bidders did get a letter. Bill sent a copy of an email that went out on May 23rd, notifying the bidders who won. And Bill, it's my understanding from our conversation that this is the only communication that you have with the bidders, informing them who won.
Yeah, there's nothing else to do. The bid itself is self-explanatory. And when you say, I will do the bid, he's agreeing to all the terms. And when you say you won the bid, all the terms are there. There isn't anything else to say that you won.
Okay,
But Danny brought up, from that was, we were talking about, Danny brought up that was the custom to send out the letter.
and do you think?
I never said that.
Well, that's what he told us that last week.
He did say
I have always sent notification of who won the bid, and I've sent it to everybody, so that the losers and the winner knows who did. That's all I've
Yeah,
ever
I've never
done
seen that.
in 5 years.
No, I don't see a problem.
Okay.
Sending a letter to somebody that was the bid. I think it's very simple.
There shouldn't be a problem here, the board approved, he was the low bidder. The board approved it via Danny's recommendation, we voted to award the project to Jamie Gregory. The only thing he wants to know, he wants the assurance that we will do it, because he is gonna buy the material for next year, and if the board decides that they wanna put it on hold, then he's stuck. That's all we have to do tonight.
So, yeah.
We can't spend any more minutes on it.
Well, I beg to differ with that.
Okay, you can. Just
And I'll try to be as succinct as possible, because I do want to make best use of the select board's time. The follow-on question, and I understand what John is saying about why don't we send a letter, but we did send an email, and according to what I just heard Bill say, when that notification email goes out, it's assumed that the terms of the bid are what we are accepting. And Bill, are you saying that in the terms of the bid is a guarantee that we will go forward with every aspect of the project?
You can always go to court and say, no, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Generally speaking, you get the bids out in June, by October, they're all done. Nobody's holding $100,000 worth of equipment for one whole year sitting in his yard.
So it's $100,000.
The other thing.
That's the issue.
I lost my train of thought. Go ahead, I'll take it.
Okay, that's fine. So again, I think the town should live up to all of its commitments to our suppliers. I'm not talking about Jamie's situation specifically at the moment. I'm trying to understand generally, and what I think I just heard Bill say is that in the terms of the bid that the email confirms, there is no assurance to the supplier that we will build the project. Is that correct, Bill?
You are obligated to do it, but there's no assurance. And he's just
There's
asking.
no
You're
what?
obligated to do the project, and he can sue you if you don't do the project.
Okay, so that is.
But all he's asking is a polite thing. Will you please assure me that you're gonna do it next winter? So myself and my supplier can feel comfortable making them this winter and not get stuck.
Okay.
That's the whole thing. That's all this is about.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So in the bid, which we've confirmed, the town obligates itself to build the project. Is that correct, Bill?
It bids, as soon as the bid goes out, it's obligating itself to do the project.
Okay, so that the answer to my question is yes.
Yes.
Okay. John, did you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing is, the town does not have the money for that project. That grant does not cover that, so you have got to get the balance from the capital budget. So that is going through another committee. That committee can say no.
The select board has it.
It's got the select, but it can go to the select board, they're gonna vote on it again, and they can say no. So it still goes through some channels.
Well, you could, I mean, to make it worse, I don't wanna spend all night on this thing, but what could make it worse is that you have a new select board who comes in March, and they could turn around and say, we don't wanna do it. Yet it's not, and then what will happen is that the contract would have to then sue the town would have to hire an attorney, you'd have to have legal fees and all those kinds of things. What the outcome is, I'm not an attorney, I couldn't tell you. But all Jamie is asking for is that he is gonna lay out 100,000, 90,000, whatever this project for the Covert is. He wants to make sure that he doesn't have to sue the town next May, June, or July when he does the project. That's all it is. Period.
I'm understanding that. My final question is this. First of all, getting back to the specifics of Jamie, I think it's prudent of him, given the supply chain shortages and everything else, to think about ordering this stuff in advance. And I can understand what gave rise to his question about, will he be paid for it? That's a very reasonable question. But what I'm asking specifically about what our assurance will be if we pass this motion, will it be to cover the costs of the culvert that Jamie is requesting? Or are we obligated to cover the full $183,500 bid?
No,
I don't think it's that. I don't think that's true.
you're obligated to pay the, whatever the bid, whatever money you're getting from the state, we have to pay the balance, whatever that might be, 60,000, whatever. That's all our obligation. The state pays the state gives you the check for 100,000, let's say, and we have to pay 50,000. That's it. And that comes out of the capital budget.
What is your understanding in the motion of the amount we would need to pay Jamie in the event?
I don't remember
What
the
is
amount
that?
that was discussed and I don't.
Are we obligated to pay?
You're
the
obligated to
bid?
hire him to do the project. You are not obligated to buy his equipment. You are his supply. No, you're obligated to for $174,000.
$183,500.
That's what you're obligated to.
Okay, that was my question.
But
What
the
are
state-
we obligated for? And so in the event, Nick, please finish. In the event we do not build the project, given the circumstances John just described, in the event we do not build the project, do we owe Jamie $183,500?
No,
No,
What do we owe?
if you owe him for his loss,
whatever that might be.
which is whatever that equipment is and whatever his profit was in that.
Then I think that the motion should be clear about that.
Usually what happens in business, they send
Why
you,
you gonna do it? All he's looking for is somebody to say, you're gonna do the project in the fall. That's all, I mean, in this
Look,
next year. That's all.
But if we don't, Bill, why wouldn't we have the motion say something like it? How did the request come in from Jamie about this?
He wanted some assurance because.
Did he call
he's
you? Did he send an
out.
email to you?
He called me and asked me if I would do it, and everything has been right on top of the table. I said to all of you guys, I thought it was no big deal. Is it okay if I tell Jamie that you guys, because you're all obligated to it, that you guys are fine with me sending him an email that says, yes, we're obligated to do the project, and yes, we're going to do the project next summer. Then you said, we can't do this without a meeting. So now we're here at the meeting.
And this is the reason why we have a public discussion. So that we can.
As if this is clearing anything up?
It's clearing things up for me, Bill. And I'm a select board member. And I have a vote.
Oh, I know.
And so I think it's important to understand that I would prefer for the motion to say that if we're going to fulfill this obligation, that for if any reason the project were not built, and John just listed a few that could possibly happen, that the town would be obligated to pay Jamie for his loss. I think that's a very prudent way to phrase the motion, and I don't see any harm in doing it that way.
I have a motion on the floor. So you made a motion, I seconded it. Are you willing to change the motion or you want to go with the motion as we did?
honestly, go with the motion as is, because in business, someone sends you a purchase order, whatever it happens to be. Say you're not obligated to pay the whole thing, you are, that's a binding I'm not a lawyer. That's a binding contract, then it's up to the vendor to say, usually what happens, they'll negotiate it down, so you get your out-of-pocket expenses. Kind of how business is done, day in and day out, so I'm fine with the motion as originally stated.
I want it reflected in the minutes, please, that I am going to vote no for this.
You don't have to reflect it, it'll be a no when you vote.
If I may finish, please, Joe. I I'm not voting no because I don't want Jamie to have the assurance. I am voting no because I think the motion should state that if the project is not built, we would owe Jamie for his loss. This has nothing to do, this has more to do with the general way the select board manages its contracts than with this specific situation.
Okay, so call the question, all in favor of the motion? Aye. Yeah?
Aye.
And Kathy?
Aye.
Okay, so aye, so it's 3, 1 abstention, 1 no.
I vote no.
Yes.
That was the motion.
That,
We were gonna,
Bill, read the motion back.
I didn't get it.
I'm gonna have to go way back to
We-
last year.
we were gonna send a surety to the vendor that we
Yeah.
would fulfill our
Yeah.
obligation.
Right.
That was, yeah.
All right, let's move on. FEMA. Let's go talk about FEMA.
We have a new, assistant, a new person who's helping us that she just started today, or she will start Friday, I guess. And we already introduced her today. That's, and she's supposed to have, I think with the KD, she's as good as Kate, so hopefully we won't have any issues. There aren't any issues, with, four of the projects anymore. The fourth one is still going through review. The other 3 are obligated. There is, Ledge Road project is under review. We now have the plans for the Covert itself, and they've been sent to both the state Green Bank Alteration Engineer and to the Army Corps of Engineers. And it's under environmental review with FEMA. As soon as the fourth set of projects gets done environmental review, that should be obligated. And then as soon as this has gone through environmental reviews, it won't be obligated until the project is done, because it is not a management project. It's not based on what the cost is, based on what it actually costs to build the culvert. And that we won't know that until the very end of that. We have bid a certain amount, 174, I think it is. And and that should be the amount of the project, but let's say, for instance, it only costs 170, then FEMA will going to pay 170. It'll be the actual cost of the project, plus 5% for management.
Okay, anything else on highway? Kim, you up?
Only thing I have to say, which everybody's probably aware of, taxes went out on Saturday. It was a nightmare trying to get our tax bills in time, from Trend Solution. Big mix up with UPS, tracked them down at 5:15 in my own my own road. So Michelle and I came in Saturday morning at 7:30 and printed the taxes and got them out to everyone. First payment is due August 15th.
Thank you for your hard work.
And, copier is due in within the next month or 2, so there's still a little bit of a wait on our copier that we contracted for. That's it.
Anybody have anything for Ken? All right, committee reports. John and I are meeting Dow, Mr. Dow tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. See whether or not he has any reason or desire to donate or sell or whatever some town property to the town to expand the Hotel Cemetery. And I've been inspecting the cemetery since the morning. I think they're doing pretty good business. And John and I will be working on the cemetery rules and some costs to fix the fences and to repair the stone. So that's all in the works.
Walter's services at the Hopeville Cemetery on Sunday.
That's right, yeah.
And I think we should acknowledge that as a means.
Okay, highway committee?
Grafton, will be handling the executive session.
Okay. Work on the amending the traffic ordinances and whatever.
I've been
You got
asked,
a copy of it?
Hmm?
You got a copy of it?
no, I sent it to the two of
No,
you.
I
You just sent it to us too?
No,
Just to the two of you, because I don't know what you want to do with it.
so if you're not ready, we'll talk about it next meeting.
Oh,
I glanced at it, I didn't, I'm not ready. If you are, then
I'm ready, but I'd like to do. No.
just, so you, I sent it to the sheriff for him to look at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you got it back from
You guys can do whatever you want with this. You can take a 5-minute meeting and approve all the rules and regulations and speed and stop signs for the town. Or you can have a public hearing, which I think you should have beforehand sometime and separate from the select board meeting, just a committee meeting, and have the town go through it and see if the town likes the fact that people are going too slow or too fast on the road. And there are stop signs that some people want, and you guys have to, I think you should do that in public, decide whether or not you want to add stop signs, for instance, at the end of the Cambridgeport Bridge. So, or leave it exactly like it is, but it's this, the reason I sent it to two of you so you could be aware of it, because you, John, had asked me, and the select board had asked me, and made comments several times about the fact that we're not getting paid for the stop signs because they're not in our regulations. Okay, that's the main reason we're doing it. But as I went through there, I found out that a good portion of our roads somehow got left out of both the paved and unpaved ordinances that we now have for speed. And thirdly, I wanted the sheriff to look at it because he's got to take it to the judge if he's giving a ticket, and the judge got to say it was written and done correctly, and yes, I will enforce it. So it's all those things that need to be done before you adopt it, but so that's why you guys have it, and I brought it here just so you guys can let them know you were working on it. But it isn't ready for prime time.
Yeah, I don't think we should discuss it now. I think this should be on.
There's one other issue in here, and that's out by Lisa Kissing, where the speed limit changes.
And say again,
Out by Lisa Kissing, where the speed limit changes.
well, all the speed limits are up for grabs. I mean, those are I mean, that's two different things.
We've got two different speeds there.
Say again.
You got two different speeds there. One is slower by her house than it is the rest of the way.
Well, you know, the 30 starts at her house and goes all the way to the schoolhouse.
Yeah.
Whereas all the rest of the paved road or up to her house is 35 like the rest of the road. And so does it need to start at her house? Maybe. But we're at the bottom of her field, or should it start when you get into the village? That's part of the decision that people.
Yeah, and I agree with Bill. I think this needs some kind of public hearing. Because you have individuals who might be upset because you didn't, like Bill said, put the stop sign where they, or you want to go 25 and they want to go 30 or something of that nature. So, I mean, because you're gonna live with this.
when I was reading through this, that was what I took away from, I was surprised how many areas in town that Bill was talking about. And, one thing that struck into my head, when we were talking about one sign one time, didn't Danny say they're about $300 a piece? I could be wrong about
I
that.
don't know.
That's gonna
Mike
be
myself.
some serious money. There's a bunch of it.
You know what the signs cost roughly?
It was roughly around 180 somewhere.
Per sign?
To put up the sign.
So I think this probably needs a little more
I
discussion.
think so.
Yeah.
I think it does. Okay.
And isn't there speed change.
And most of the signs are there. The biggest speed change is everybody thinks that when you get on the bridge at Cambridgeport, you're supposed to be going 30. No, that's a 40 mile an hour all the way to the Rockingham line. On the other side of the Rockingham line, it's 30 coming into the town. But as soon as you hit that line, it's 40 miles.
You must have read a lot, like 10 spots that have stop signs, and there was quite a few there.
There are a lot of places, for instance, in the White Orchard doesn't have a stop, the end of Eastman doesn't have a stop. I was surprised.
Oh, no. I think it's a bigger issue than I think we realize.
I think it is too, that's why, there's no sense discussing it. Let's you guys come up with a solution and figure out, but I'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting if you're ready. If not, we'll do it whenever you are, okay?
On a parallel discussion, I think it was brought up a meeting or two ago where Danny pointed out that we haven't got the wording right to revenue share, so to speak.
Right.
So maybe that should be part of your.
Well, I think it is, Don. I think once we get all this wording and get everything ready, then we can get the fines rather than going to the state.
That's the whole idea of the stop signs. We don't have any of our control signs in the ordinance, you know, the only thing we get money for is speed.
Right. Who's gonna deal with the cones?
The cones are dealt with.
Okay.
And part of that is the fact that it's 40 miles an hour past Erica's house.
Okay,
So she was slowing people down, but she now understands it's $252 fine if you have an unauthorized cone out, sticking out in the street because
as long as
your
it's done.
kids are playing.
we know
Okay,
what's
she
happening.
understands it, she won't put it up.
The Parks Committee, I don't think we have anything, so they're done. We're done as far as we can check, correct?
I think we're pending the outcome of the grant.
Right. Okay, the other thing is the Personnel Committee on the clarity of the COVID protocols and sick time.
So, Kathy and I worked on this and I gave copies to Bill of the proposal. Do you want to just hand those out, please, Bill?
Yeah, these are the-
This is a proposal for the, don't know if it actually needs to be in the personnel policy itself, or whether it needs to just be a policy of the town. But this is the proposal that Kathy and I worked on. And it's based on a previous action by the select board. You'll recall that on May 5th, we had an executive session. And we came out of that executive session and moved that the COVID policy concerning returning to work after a positive test for COVID, and that is to follow the directive of the Vermont Department of Health, which is currently to stay home for 5 days after such a test. And these 5 days are not counted against the person's personal sick time, earned sick time. If a person's doctor tells a patient they should stay home for 10 days, not the 5 directed by the Vermont Health, and the person follows the doctor's orders, the additional time is taken on the personal sick time. So in a way, as a select board, we've already acted on this issue. I think the difference is that at the time in May, there may have been a more specific requirement from the Vermont Department of Health. But still, the Vermont Department of Health Department guideline is if you test positive, you need to stay home. So then the proposed sick leave policy is employees are required by the town of Grafton not to return to work for 5 days after testing positive for COVID. Those 5 days of required time off do not count against the employee's earned sick leave if the employee's healthcare provider or the employee decides that they need more time to recuperate. Those subsequent days are counted toward the employee's earned sick leave. And then we just stated a rationale for this and requiring employees not to return to work for 5 days after testing positive. This policy ensures the select board's prudence in considering the health of employees, co-workers, and the public. But after the 5 days, the employees may take additional time from their own sick leave. So that's what we're recommending. How does that sound to you?
One thing I don't think that was clear, it's been months since I read from the Vermont Department of if you have more than one case in calendar year.
Oh, good question.
Because I caught it twice last year, I only got paid. The second time they took it out of my sick days.
What was the policy in your schools for that?
The second time they took it out of my sick days. Usually 14 a year, so it wasn't a big deal, like, yeah.
So they took the first time you had it, you got 5 days,
Even
With-
more, yeah.
even more. But the second time you had to take the entire thing from your personal. How did you feel about that? Do you think that ought to be stated in this policy, and what would you recommend?
I don't know what this town gives their employees for sick days. I know where I happen to be, it's an abundance, so it's not an issue. Yeah, I mean, if it's mandatory that we're making them stay home 5 days, that's tough if they're not going to get paid, if they're working paycheck.
Yeah,
to
I
paycheck.
think the infection level is no different, whether you get it first or second.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair. I mean, COVID is rampant, the new strain is coming supposedly and all this baloney. And they say you
It's
can
not
get it,
Oh,
no, I know, what you mean, but they say you can get it twice. And it's not, I don't think it's fair, for the employee who gets COVID and gets paid, and then he gets the second time, he can't get paid. I don't think that's right.
There's something said about vaccinations.
No,
The Vermont Department of Health does not make a distinction between those who are vaccinated and those who are not vaccinated with respect to the 5 days. I think, we've interpreted vaccinations as more of a personal decision, and this policy is really based on whether you test positive and how many days you need to isolate yourself down.
I was vaccinated, I caught it twice.
I think you can leave it the way it is. I mean,
No, it looks good, I think.
yeah, I mean, because it says if you get, well, you get it for 5 days, so if you get it 5 days a month later, it's the same thing.
Yes,
There was no change.
that's what this policy was.
But I didn't put this in the personnel policy because this COVID thing will change and make it as a town policy.
I think it's an policy.
Yeah,
I just want to thank Kathy and Suzanne, especially Kathy, because I brought this to her attention, she brought it to Suzanne, how quickly you guys clarified it for the employees. So thank you very much.
that's
Well,
very good.
and Kathy did definitely take the lead in this, and the only reason I'm reporting it tonight is because she's not here.
So can we have a motion to, this is not, we don't want to have it to the personnel policy, but as a town
The whole
policy.
town policy, so moved.
Here, second,
That,
Kathy?
I'll second that.
Okay,
Can I ask?
any other discussion on this? Yeah.
So are you saying then if it's a positive test, it's a required 5 days,
Yes,
no exceptions,
right,
that you're out, you have to stay.
you're out. That's what their guidelines are anyway.
I'm just looking at the two-man crew over here.
Yeah,
I know,
The
that
purpose,
wasn't a requirement before, so.
the purpose is to, it was a requirement of Vermont Department of Health previously, that you were not to return for 5 days.
Unless it has changed after 5 days, you don't even have, they may have, I haven't looked at it in a couple months now. After the 5 days, you don't even have to retest.
That is correct, because even the Vermont Department of Health makes a comment that you may test positive after the 5 days.
Yeah.
Their requirement is that you isolate for 5 days.
Yeah.
So if there's no other discussion. All in favor of the motion? Say aye.
Aye,
Kathy?
aye.
Okay, opposed? Opposed? Okay, good. Thank you for the committee. Buildings? Anything?
Well, I don't want to get a long discussion because it's up in the air.
Well, then don't do it if it's not.
Okay, they're working on the proposal for the actual work on the elevator. When we have that, we will get back to you.
Okay, and the electric work,
Because we've been asked to discuss it with them on Friday,
Or Thursday or Friday.
Thursday or Friday.
Right.
and the electrical work is still on schedule.
Electrical is still on for the 22nd of fall.
The wastewater committee, they asked, us to come up with, certain figures for the Wyndham Foundation properties. I was in touch with Bob Donald, And I offered to help Bob. Bob said no, they are answering the questions for us. And they expect to have the answers to all the questions for tying bond this week. And once that comes in, we will forward it on to tying bond, whatever. And I emailed Bob over the weekend, asking if he needs any further help from the committee. I haven't heard that as of this afternoon. So I think we're okay with that.
Wasn't there a July 1st deadline?
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
The initial report?
They didn't make the July 4th deadline, so it's been put off, I think the July 30th or 20th. I don't remember the exact dates, but.
I have not heard.
Well, in any
What I
event,
have heard is that they know they missed the deadline. They're gathering this data. They have not set a new schedule.
Well, I thought it was coming towards the end of this month, but that could be wrong.
If they.
We don't have an
said
exact
somebody,
date yet, though.
they may have said that to you, but I've not seen anything on the new schedule.
That's a public hearing thing, no? What,
Well, it'll be a public discussion, yeah, not a hearing, it'll be a public meeting
Yeah.
for anybody to ask questions, and they'll obviously give their speech, what they found so far, and then people can understand and ask questions. All right, any other business? Okay, public comment? Frank?
I wonder if you could qualify a little bit this tree warden. Do I understand correctly that the only job of the tree warden is to designate shady trees?
The only job of the tree warden is to manage the shade trees that have been designated. The select board. The suggestion was if somebody's interested in being the tree warden, form a committee. Decide in that committee if there are trees that you wanted to declare shade trees. Write a policy and a plan for protection of shade trees. Bring it to the select board so that they can adopt a plan if they so wish and designate those trees that you are now in charge of. Otherwise, there's nothing for the tree warden to do.
So you go around and nail little signs up on the trees saying, this is an official shady tree.
Well,
I mean, this just seems ludicrous.
but that's the way the law is written.
But I think what it is, Don, is there are communities and towns that have parks with shade trees and old trees, and I think this is a way to protect those. Obviously, we don't have parks and we don't have old trees, so, I mean, we have parks, but we don't have shade trees in the park. Like, if you went to Burlington or some other town where they have a village park, where they have benches and things like that, so. Any
Also,
other-
I think it's possible for residents to declare that they'd like certain trees in their property to be designated shade trees.
On their property?
I'm not
On their
sure.
property.
I don't know about that.
No.
It's designated shade tree can be in whole or in part on public land.
But the resident can't say it's a shade tree.
No, I didn't say that. I said the select board, the resident
board
could
has
talk to the select board about having a tree designated as a shade tree.
on public land.
If it shares, if the tree is on the land.
Any other public comment?
What's the status on the $1 million bridge?
Highway department,
Would you say now?
what's the status of the?
Latest status?
That it's in the right of way stage right now, and I have not heard from Carolyn Potter, who's in charge of it. I've tried to get her, and I think she's on vacation, but, not everybody is signed off on the right of way. I know that much.
Oh.
I think there was 5, but there's 3 maybe signed off.
And if they don't, do they take it by eminent domain or?
We can take it to court.
You can't think about it on demand, you gotta go to court.
Gotta go to court first.
So we're sort of in limbo, then is the answer.
Mhm.
Okay. I'd just like to remind everybody that the annual meeting of the GIA is on Wednesday night in the homestead next door. And there's a lot to be discussed, and we're looking forward to everybody being there.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If not, the next regular meeting is on Monday, August 1st, at 6 p.m. here.
executive session first.
No, no. This is, yeah, and then we will now need a motion to go into executive session. Can we make that motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? That's okay, whoever you decide you wanna have. Does everybody understand that, Ken and Mike are gonna be here at the executive committee?
I understand that.
Okay, do you have a problem with it? Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
And you guys will make sure you get the minutes after the meeting to when. When you come out of the executive session.
Yeah.
Somebody will take minutes and give them the minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Kathy.
Yeah, you say you're voting. Kathy, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, we'll go into executive session momentarily.
Artie, you gotta get off, and so does Fact TV. Or I can just take you off.
Take it off.
Is it this me?
Hey, Mike, would you mind shutting the door? Thanks.
How do I get rid of it? How do I get rid of it?
No,
He's trying to
I was trying to take
decide
care
what
of
to
it.
do.